Welcome to Washington Hospital Today, dedicated to informing residents about healthcare topics and issues. Through programs featuring community forums and free health and wellness classes, our goal is to empower community members with the information needed to make informed health decisions. Washington Hospital has been providing health care to the residents of the Washington Township Healthcare District for the past 60 years. Today's presenter is registered dietitian Kimberley Alvari. Kimberley Alvari is the Director of Food and Clinical Nutrition Services. She is also the Chief of Patient Experience at Washington Hospital.
Thank you all for coming out. I know you have a lot of choices and places and things that you could be doing tonight, but you chose to be here, so that's great. So I'm guessing that when you showed up here tonight, besides just learning about that healthy prescription, that you had some other things, maybe goals in mind, which is maybe the quality of life and how long that life is and the life expectancy that you could predict based on what you actually eat. So we're going to go through all of that tonight. And we'll start with the thinking. Everything begins and ends with the way that we think and how we put together, how we get things done. It starts up in our minds. So we'll talk about healthy thinking around healthy balancing of lifestyle. We'll talk about weight, of course, because that's an element of the balancing. We'll look at the food choices. We'll start out as a traditional kind of look at food portions, direction of how to put together a healthy plate. But then I'm going to push you one step further with each slide after that, and I'm going to challenge you to kind of move in a new direction. That new direction is really what we call a plant slant. I know we have some ladies here who have joined us who have been already studying up on what that means, and that really just means focusing on those things that are grown in the ground, things that come from plants, and having those be a big component of your diet. We'll be talking about that because we're going to be getting to the end here, which is really about living longer. So we'll get through those food choices, we'll look at activity, we'll look at some tips to help you to eat healthy, and then we'll get into the blue zone. And the blue zone is really the elements that we'll be talking about, the higher level, the basics, and then pushing it to that higher level to improve your quality of life and the length at which your life can actually be based on what choices you make. So healthy thinking is really not trying to do too much at one time. I know we were talking when I came in about, trying to do too much at one time and some of the issues with that. So really don't try to overhaul anything that I talk about tonight and share with you. It's not a short game. It's really a long game. It's how do I get to where I need to get in a reasonable period of time to make the changes that I need to make. It's not that these have to be done tomorrow, they have to be done by the end of the week or whatever, because people end up kind of giving up on that mindset. So healthy thinking allows you to kind of make adjustments along the way that will all add up, those small things that add up into a big transformation over time. And so these are the challenges to change that we face, right? We all know that. Lack of time. Good news is we all get 24 hours in a day. So we can then start to make some goals that fit into those 24 hours to make those changes. It's hard sometimes just to get started. Sometimes just getting started is kind of going back to, well, I don't really have willpower. I don't think I can really do that. But we're going to talk tonight how you can do that and overcome that thinking. And that negative self-talk, right? I've done it before, it didn't work before, I tried it that way. I just don't seem to be able to make any changes in my life that are sustainable. And then the grips of procrastination, of course, that's the one I love, always finding other things to do in place of what you were really wanting to do and desiring to do. So those are the challenges we face, and this is the answer. It's the power to microsteps. This research has been done. A lot of the research was done at Harvard and shows that when you set your goals up into micro goals, that's the power of setting a goal that's really achievable. The whole word micro just sounds like it's something anybody could do, right? It's a small piece of something that you could do. And then what happens is you build on that, the synergy of it. You set a small goal. Maybe it's not. Maybe you'd like to lose 30 pounds. Maybe it's really just starting with I'll lose a half a pound or 1 pound. And then putting a progression or a time on it, a timetable on that. What's reasonable? What's something that's achievable? Something that then your negative self-talk doesn't start coming in and saying, look, you're not doing very well on this. You got in the scale, you need to lose 30 pounds. It's not really working. And so you just kind of start going backwards in that goal setting. And those steps are not going in the right direction. And if you pick the small habit that supports those goals and those progressions, that's what you want to do. If you want to start exercising, and you think you need to do 30 minutes a day is where you'd like to be, ultimately, maybe you start with 5 minutes or 2 minutes or just 1 minute. Maybe you just get up and get on the treadmill, whatever it is, and do it consistently, right? Whatever it is, because research says that when you do that, you're building in small successes that then start to give you the power to keep going forward. Also shows, interesting, when people use this method of setting goals and achieving them, those people are the happiest people. Those are the people that are really enjoying what they're doing more. So we have to talk about healthy weight, right? It's part of the balancing equation that we're here tonight for. This probably looks familiar. How many of you have seen this? Or maybe when you go to the doctor, they say this is your body mass index. How many have seen it? Raise your hand if you've seen that. Okay, so this is kind of like the benchmark. It is an equation with your weight to height ratio in it. You can even just Google it and you can calculate it online if you don't know what it is. What we're talking about, 72 million Americans, basically 60%, are sitting in the top two to the right here. They're sitting in the overweight or the obese. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit of how we got to that place and some of the tools to kind of back that up and take that backwards view. But also on there it kind of shares the states that are probably struggling the most with weight and the BMI. And what we know for sure is that when the weight is really distributed more around the mid-abdominal area, that's really associated with some more of the chronic diseases. And so you really do want to, it's not just about the weight coming off, it's about making sure that it's lean tissue and it's distributed in the proper way. So again, that's a balance between what you eat and your exercise that helps you to get to that point. You want to be as lean as you possibly can be without being unhealthy. So really you want to be on the second one in, the second little person in here, and kind of pushing more right in the line here, right in between, almost verging on that one on the other side, right? That's where you want to kind of set your goals to. So it is all about balance, is what you eat and what you put out. It's a simple equation that you work on. The healthy food choices starts, of course, with the plate that you use. When I use this plate here and talk about this plate method, it gives you a real visual. It makes being able to eat, put your plates together really simple. It's not a lot about weighing things and doing all of that right now. Just really even putting together what the plate and what portions of that plate should be consisted of different types of food. So does anybody know what size this plate is? If we had this size. That's good. You guys are good. You did some studying too before you came. We have some real overachievers over here. This is actually a 9-inch plate. It's a 9-inch plate. So go home and measure your plates. See how big your plate is. The bigger the plate, the more the calories. You move up to even a 10-inch or a 10, 11, 12-inch plate. You start adding substantial amounts of calories. We're going to see that 500 or more in excess just by the plate that you use. So start with the right size on your plate. And what we're going to focus on first on the plate is we're going to stay on the left side. We're going to really focus on the plant slant, getting more to eating more plant-based foods in your diet. And so we're going to start on that side. How much does it look like your plate should be made up of fruits and vegetables? How much space, real estate, is that taken up?
Half of it.
Half of the plate, 50% of your plate. 50% of your plate should be fruits and vegetables, okay? What's the truth? That's the truth. How many people out of 10 people eat enough fruits and vegetables every day? 9 out of 10 don't. 10 minus 9 is what? Who's eating? Who? How many people on a daily basis are eating enough fruits and vegetables? Just one. Just one person. So we have a challenge in front of us, right? We have a challenge in front of us to get the plate loaded properly. And there's more and more evidence showing that, again, that plant slant is going to provide big dividends at the end of the day. Well, we also know that 50% of the plate, that side of the plate, is associated with reduction in chronic diseases. Most of the chronic diseases, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all of those things, a remedy to that is eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables to combat that. So that 50% is a powerful, powerful medicine sitting on that plate that you have control over. This is the fruits, Oh, the color's a little bit. This is the fruits. This is the standard part of the slide deck. This is what each group says we go through the plates we'll look at. You get a feel for what a serving size looks like to kind of put on your plate as you start to load that quarter of the plate up for the 50% on that side. It's a small apple, it's one large banana. How many of this looks familiar to you in terms of portions and stuff? Does that look familiar to you? Okay. So I'm going to take it up a notch because I said that's what we're going to do tonight. We're really going to start focusing on how to load the plate even more and get more plant-based. These are all the different kind of tips that you might consider to sneak fruits into your diet and vegetables we'll be talking about. But this is some of the tips you can do. Put it in a smoothie. How many of you have had smoothies? They're really in right now, right? We make a kale smoothie at the hospital, one of the most popular smoothies that we have, kale and banana. You can put it into cereals, you can put it into pancakes. You can use fresh and frozen. Sometimes people are saying, well, I don't have any fresh produce, or it's winter time and it's hard for me to get those that I like. Go ahead and get the frozen variations of that and use those as well. We're really lucky now too because all of your fruits you can buy pre-cut, right? Part of the battle to eating more fruits and vegetables is just cutting them up and preparing them, right? All of the preparing that has to go into them. You can get a lot of them cut up already. Makes it easier for you to grab. Put them in the refrigerator so it's the thing that you go for. They're great for dessert. Oftentimes frozen grapes. Try a frozen grape or banana. They're great, almost desserts when they get frozen like that. Put them on yogurt and cottage cheese. And if you're having a PB sandwich, peanut butter and wheat sandwich that you're having, instead of the jam, slice up a banana and put it on. So put whole fruit, or even sliced strawberries would be great on there instead of the jam and the extra sugar that you get, right? How many have had a peanut butter and banana sandwich? Yeah, pretty amazing, huh? I lived on those in college. I could have 2 or 3 a day just eating peanut butter and banana sandwiches all day long. And if I was really being decadent, you put just a little drizzle of honey in there, right? Just a little bit. Okay, so those are the ideas to start kind of saying, okay, we're going to march ourselves over toward that plants more. Here's the vegetables going to take up the other half of the plate. Standard, a cup of broccoli is a serving, a cup of greens, a cup of carrots. A lot of these are cups of tomato juice, sorry. Corn, mashed potatoes, and medium baked mashed potatoes, okay? So these are all the vegetable choices. This is the standard portion sizes that fit in that component of the plate. And this is when we zhuzh it up a notch. This is when we say, okay, now we know what the portion sizes are, and then how do we get them in, and how do we start to make a diet that's really plant-based. Try different greens. How many have eaten kale? It's the most vogue in food right now. It's great. Kale salads, kale smoothies. Kale, if you're not such a big fan, what I would say is get it pre-washed and get the spine out of the kale. It's the spine in that back of that kale that's kind of giving you that bitter flavor. So it's that spine, and then you get a small, it's like you can get baby spinach. It ends up having a little less of that bite in it. You can also mix it into your standard greens so that you it's something that's a little bit more doable until you get used to that. You add them, of course, just think about all the different vegetables and things that come in pre-cut. See what you can throw in a salad. Challenge yourself to put on as many cut vegetables in that salad. You can add it to meatloaf. We have Mediterranean meatloaf at the hospital that has all kinds of vegetables in it. And people love it. It's one of the top sellers we have. You can put it in chili. You can add it to spaghetti. I've added grated carrots in my spaghetti or grated zucchini with it, and people have no idea that they're having additional vegetables that way. In muffins, think of those options. You don't want to be those 9 people, okay? You don't want to be the 9 people because the implications of not having these vegetables in your diets are really big. And I know you guys have started to read a little bit about that blue zone, but it's pretty significant. So really try to make a commitment, maybe a micro goal for yourself to get more. What I like to do, and we do at the hospital as well, is we steam some of the cauliflower. Sometimes we can do the rice if we have some of it left over, and we mix it into a potato. So we make a cauliflower potato mash. Yukon Gold tastes really good with that. So you actually kind of like get away from the starchiness of the potato and get some of those elements that cauliflower adds in terms of the nutritional profile, and making something a little bit more healthy, a little bit lower calorie, right? Because that cauliflower is going to be a little bit lower in calorie. And then, of course, eat your vegetables with dips, hummus, cashew or almond. And you can just have if you get cut celery sticks. Actually this week, I just said in the department this morning, I'm going to try next week putting out, I'm flipping it up, putting out in the cafe that we have carrot and celery sticks for breakfast. And then I'll put a couple of different dips out there for people to use with those carrot and celery sticks. I'm just going to turn it all around and see what people do and see if they will go for that. Okay, so the grains, these are your breads, your tortillas, your muffins, your oatmeal and crackers. Serving sizes, usually a slice, usually a cup of cereal, depends if it's cold or cooked. 3 cups of popcorn fit in here, and the whole grain crackers. So you want to try, of course, everything brown, less processed. You want it to be more any kind of things the grains that you can get in the brown colors, right? So brown rice, brown pasta, or the wheat pasta, couscous, barley, quinoa. Who's had barley or quinoa? When you put barley or quinoa in a soup, and a broth soup, which is a lower calorie soup, and you load it with vegetables, those grains in there, as they cook over time, is going to start to thicken up the soup. So it makes it a real comfort food with not having to add any heavy creams or anything to the soup that normally.
For a beef stew.
Great.
Lots of vegetables.
Yeah, lots of vegetables in there. So yeah, both of those work. We also use quinoa in the hospital a lot with we'll do like a butternut squash or with garbanzo beans, right, Alfredo, and tomatoes over a little bit of quinoa, like a quinoa bowl. Tastes really good. And you want to make sure in the grains, and when you look at the servings that you eat every day, that you want to make sure at least 3 of them are coming from a whole grain. Whole grain means it's just the brown thing. It's if you look at an ingredient label on the product, if it comes with one, it should say the first descriptor on it should say that it's a whole grain. And that just means the brands there, the endosperm and the germ. All the components of that grain that make it healthy are still intact. They haven't been processed and made into like white bread or something like that where you lose components of the healthy products here. So, protein. It's traditional. It's usually meat and usually an ounce of beef, chicken, or pork. Nuts are in here. The beans are in here. The beans are the plant source in here. The recommendation on beans is try to have a cup a day. How many of you eat a cup of beans a day? That's a challenge. That's going to be a micro goal in itself, right? Just starting the beans. So you start to kind of put together what you think you can do and what you want to try. And you can see this is a long game, isn't it? It's a long game. There's a lot of recommendations in here to really work on creating a healthy lifestyle and diet. Peanut butter's in there, tofu, of course, and hummus, and I'm going to take it up a notch and go to the plant-based items next. But what I want to tell you about the protein, do you remember what the plate looked like? Was it half the plate that the protein was sitting on? Look back at your slide deck. How much space does that protein get? It gets just about a quarter of the plate. It gets a small component. If something's a small part of something, what does that mean it is? It's kind of a garnish, kind of more on the condiment side, mostly starting to think if you're really going to the plant slant, which means move to a plant-based diet, what it really means is that protein really becomes something that's more celebratory, that you have it less often than you think about it. When you put together your plate, it becomes something that you do less often, okay? So how do we take protein? And protein is not from a plant source, right? It doesn't come from a plant source. The other things were easy for me to tell you, right? How to zhuzh it up and how to get more plant slant. This is what you do if you're going to start to move more to a plant-based diet, okay? You can try Beyond Meat. We have Beyond Meat in the cafe. Do people like that, Alfredo, our chef? They love the Beyond Meat burger. What's it made of? Does anybody know what's in that Beyond? What's the protein source?
Beans.
They're pretty close. Peas. It's pea. It's pea protein, okay? It definitely, a lot of people that are really maybe vegetarian or vegan, kind of like, they don't really like that because it's like, why do you need to eat meat if we don't eat meat, right? What's the point of that? But I think there's room for everything healthy, and I think that's a great option. Probably heard out at Burger King, they've got the Impossible Burger. The Impossible Burger is a soy-based product. We've had both at the hospital. We find the Beyond Meat a little bit more popular. It's the company's name, it is, and I don't earn any money off that or anything when I tell you that. But it is, it's the company name, it's Beyond Meat is the name of the company that makes this, and it's actually a California-based company here, I think in Northern California, if my memory serves me right. So you can do, it's actually pea protein, so it's not like a veggie burger. I've got veggie burgers on here. The veggie burgers are going to be the grain burgers with carrots and other things in them. Those are the ones that are Prager, the Boko burger, Dr. Prager's. It's also going to be the Field Roast. Field Roast is a brand that has a veggie burger. Okay, so the Beyond Meat is really that pea protein in itself. It doesn't have any vegetables or grains or anything else in it, but it's wonderful. Soy crumbles, of course, soy crumbles are just like anything else. It takes on the, what do you say? Like, usually you say, well, everything tastes like chicken, right? Well, soy crumbles is the chicken of the plant world, right? You put it in we serve it in a spaghetti sauce at the hospital. We have it in a sauce for our patients. It's not uncommon for us to get a call down and people say, I'm vegetarian, you serve me meat. And we're like, oh no, we served you soy crumbles. So they really do just take on the texture, the flavor of the food that's there. So you can use it in place of a spaghetti sauce and put it in there. So how many of you use soy crumbles? You can get that also in kind of where do you find it? I think in different places in the store. Usually it might be toward the vegetarian kind of section or where they have the meat alternative types of things. You'll see soy crumbles in there. So I think Safeway has soy crumbles. Of course, I know Whole Foods has soy crumbles. I know the Beyond Meat, Whole Foods for sure. I've also seen it. I think it Sprouts, some of the Sprouts, but you have to check. Raley's has it, correct. Yeah, Raley's, I forgot about that, and that's right by us right here. So this is it's starting to pervade really the market space in terms of these plant-based ideas. Just Egg. Just Egg is a vegan or vegetarian option for an egg. What do you think that's made out of? If we had peas in the meat, what do you think that Just Egg is? Scrambles up, much like an egg white, put vegetables in it, tastes great. It's actually a mung bean. So it's a mung bean that is processed and made into this egg. Comes in a little bottle called Just Egg, and you can scramble it up just like you would any other egg. Looks kind of like or kind of similar to having like an egg white scramble or something as in terms of kind of flavor and stuff, but you can cook it just like an egg. We talked about the veggie burgers. You can mix in plant-based powders, all kinds of plant-based powders. Some people are moving away from meat, but are concerned about getting enough protein. There's plant-based powders. I don't think you need to do that. I think there's enough protein. You don't need as much as you probably think, and you probably can get it within your diet, depending on the choice, especially too if you add maybe fish in 3 times a week, some salmon or some cod or some other types of fish, you're going to be fine. The nuts and seeds are important for health. They offer a lot of antioxidants, help with health and aging. The problem with the nuts and seeds are they're higher in calories, right? So you want to go sparingly, put them on your salads maybe. Some people it's weird, my husband does this. He makes toast in the morning, he sprinkles nuts and seeds on it, on the toast. He puts a little bit of a spread, and then he puts the nuts and seeds on. And then you might consider jackfruit. And jackfruit isn't a protein at all, it's fruit. But I put it in here because it's kind of that, it's a fruit, it's a tropical fruit, but when it's cut up and processed, when it's less ripe, it's more kind of gives you that meat consistency. So if you flake it up and kind of pull it into little components, we're actually having vegan tacos. Not tacos, we're having vegan nachos this Wednesday in the cafe. We're having standard, traditional nachos for people, but we're also having a vegan option. The vegan option will have jackfruit in it. And so it'll be sauteed in the pan and just kind of shredded. You shred it, it kind of almost gives a meat kind of appearance, and then it starts acting like soy. Picks up the flavors of the seasoning in that. So we'll put like a taco seasoning on that jackfruit, and we'll serve it on top of those nachos with some vegan queso. So I put it in the meat category. It's really not a protein source, but it's used in place of that in a lot of the plant source. And it is a plant, so we're trying to get to using more of that. You can get jackfruit, Trader Joe's. You can get it at Safeway. I bought the jackfruit, actually we're having this week. I got some at Safeway because there's a kind that I wanted to get specifically. And I think Sprouts, there's a lot of stores that have the jackfruit. It can come in a can, or you can get it fresh. And so I got fresh at the Safeway store, but you can also get it in a can.
So it's with the fruits and vegetables?
It was in the produce section, yeah. So, but you might, if you're walking around, It's always best to just ask, because I'm always looking for something. I don't really always get how people think about where to put these things, but it is in the produce aisle because it is a fruit, is where I found it. So that's a good question. So the dairy, basically a cup of milk, your cheese, your yogurt, traditional items here in serving sizes. So how do we move into a plant-based diet? Because where does milk come from? It comes from a cow. It's not plant-based, right? So what are your plant-based options when you start to talk about the dairy group? Try soy, oat, almond, or cashew milk, okay? The oat milks are great if you're having to lighten a coffee or do something that's a little bit sweeter. That oat milk is going to do that. It's going to give a more creamy consistency to the product. Consider a pea protein milk. I know the picture, it's kind of blending in there because of the white and the lighting in here, but a pea protein milk that tastes wonderful is Ripple. I've seen it at Safeway. I've seen it, I think Target carries Ripple milk, okay? It's, again, pea protein. It has no sugar in it, unlike milk. It has about the same amount of calories and protein of milk, and it has a nice source that's fortified with calcium in there. So more calcium than you would get for a glass of milk. The chocolate flavor is amazing, okay? It's really, really good. So you can go to the Ripple milk. You can also use, you can get Kite Hill. They'll make cheeses and yogurts. You can also get them put into a ravioli that is also just full 100% plant-based. Mayokos, cheeses and spreads are absolutely amazing. I suggest that if you want to use these products, you can get that at Sprouts, you can get them at Safeway, and you can get them again at Whole Foods. These cheeses and spreads melt just like real cheese. You can make a caprese salad with the mozzarella. This is a vegan. It's made from nuts and a little bit of coconut. It depends on the mix that they make the cheeses out of. If you go to the website for the name right there on the cheese, you're going to get some amazing plant-based recipes using these products. You'll get an Alfredo pasta sauce. You can make a whole wheat pasta, and you can make a cheese sauce with it. You'll get, gosh, you get everything that you can imagine. I think even a mac and cheese with that. We have a little bit of that cheese to try tonight, which is chive, and an herb cheese that is just almost like almost a cream cheese, but it is actually plant-based. And Baskin-Robbins is pretty proud of this, so I thought I'd throw in something fun. We should have things fun to talk about. They took about 10 years to figure out how to get to the perfect vegan ice cream, and so they have one, they have two now that you can have. It's made from nuts and some coconut milk, I believe. They have a cookie dough one, and they have a dark chocolate version of that. So you can even take your plant-based eating and your micro goals about whatever you're doing out when you're enjoying yourself as well. So what's next? What's clean eating then? Clean eating means this. Choose foods with no label. Most of the foods we talked about, do they have a label tonight? Do they come with a food label on them? Do any of the foods, most of the foods I talk about, if they're a plant and they look mostly like what they look like when they were out in the field, do they come with a food label? They don't. So make most of your choices foods that don't have food labels. If you're going to keep the ingredient list short, what's short mean? How short? Is 10 short? There you go, 5. 5 or less. Look for foods. That means it's more of a clean food, right? It's really keeping it true to the integrity of where it came from and what it is. Make sure you can pronounce what it says on the label. If you can't pronounce it, not so clean, not so true to the integrity of the food. You might consider some organics over conventional. There is a lot of debate around this. The fact that most Americans, 90% of them, don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, the value of just eating fruits and vegetables up against the harm of worrying about the pesticides is considered to be relatively minor, that you would want to get that in the way, saying, well, I would eat more fruits and vegetables, but I'm supposed to eat those organic ones, and those are too expensive, so I can't really do that, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do. You should just eat fruits and vegetables, and you should eat a lot of them any way in which they come. If you want a micro goal around that, or you want to look at those, I have the Dirty Dozen list, which is the environmental working group. I have the Dirty Dozen. If I'm going to consider organics, I'm going to consider those that are on the top of this list. If I want to work this into my budget or my eating, I'm going to go after those organics that are on the dirty list. That means a high pesticide load. At the hospital, all of our strawberries are organic. All of them are organic. We have moms eating them. We have a lot of people eating these strawberries, so they are all organic at the hospital. And then on the back, they just kind of tell you the Clean 15, those that have the lowest pesticide load. So if one of your micro goals is to look at your diet in terms of organics or pesticides, and that's important to you, then I would encourage you to look at that list. So healthy activity. Healthy activity, I won't spend a lot of this, but it's the balancing part of that equation that we saw, right? So what does healthy activity mean? This is it. This is from the American Heart Association. Okay, so it's usually about 150 minutes a week. It can be broken down into small bouts of that, and as well as if the faster and the more aggressive you get with it, you can cut down on total number of minutes spent at that. You also need to spend a couple of times a week at least in some kind of muscle, strength training, right? Because it's that lean tissue that keeps your body active and burning the calories. So the more you can maintain that lean body for many, many reasons, but in terms of fuel balance, you're going to be more effective with managing that. So I'm going to let the yoga instructor tonight talk about yoga and about activity. We just know it's part of the equation. I do think that there's some micro goal setting that people need to do, what works for them, and finding things that you enjoy is always critical to making anything successful, right? You don't want to sign yourself up for, marathon swimming if you're not a swimmer, right? That wouldn't be a good idea. So we just know that it's part of it. And that 1 hour, if you spent 1 hour, and I just said, could you do 30 minutes? It's 2% of your day. So when we start to think about the clock and can I fit this in, remember that it's mind over matter. It's a very small portion of your day. Where's the real estate? Where do you have space? And if it's not 30 minutes the first day, is it 10 minutes? If it's not 10 minutes, is it 5 minutes? Because 5 minutes spent doing anything is better than doing nothing, right? So whatever works. So healthy tips. I want to give you some tips here before we let you eat and move on. This is just going back to the plate. These are the tips. Watch the plate. The holidays are coming and they're going to try to give you those big 12-inch plates. If you look at the very bottom there, the 8.5-inch plate started back in the 1950s or 60s when we didn't have an issue with obesity in America, right? As the plates got bigger, portion distortion happened, portions got bigger everywhere, bagels got bigger, everything got bigger that we consume. But those plates just kind of kept getting bigger, and you can see just a 12-inch plate can have as much as 1,900 calories. Somebody's calorie allotment for the whole day could be 2,000, right? So you basically got 100 left. You eat one meal, you're done for the day. You've got 100 calories left. So be mindful and set yourself up with success. This tip, Mom said eat breakfast. Mom was right, eat breakfast. It gets your metabolism going. If you're somebody who says, well, no, when I eat breakfast in the morning, I just eat too much food by the end of the day, and it's better for me not to do that. Your body's looking to wake up and get everything going, get the engine running, put breakfast in. The other thing that happens is people who eat breakfast typically at the end of the day have consumed less calories than the people who don't. Okay, because they start getting hungrier, they think, oh, I didn't get enough today, and so they're overeating. And so time and time again, those people that eat breakfast have a better chance to manage their weight. It also allows you to get more of those fruits in the morning, because you're going to if you can put them in on a cereal like we talked about, get them in a muffin, get them in a pancake, a whole grain pancake, by the end of the day, you're going to have a better chance of not being one of those 9 people that didn't get enough. Also going to get your whole grains in. We talked about it, 3 of those. There's a lot of antioxidants in those whole grains. People who start breakfast in the morning or have a whole grain, at the beginning of the day usually do better by the end of the day. So eat breakfast, simple tip. Load up on what? What are you going to load up on? Fruits and vegetables. There's receptors inside your stomach. This is what 400 calories of vegetables look like, 400 calories of some chicken, and 400 calories of oil. Oil is 2 times as dense in calories than the other foods. So just even that small space is also giving you a lot of calories in a small, very small amount, right? So when your stomach's looking to feel full, what do you want to do? You want to fill it up and with those fruits and vegetables, because you're going to get a great sense of being full. And those sensors in your stomach are going to say, yep, you're done, you're done. Okay, it doesn't matter that it's fruits and vegetables versus the protein. Okay, so these are some other prep tips. It's a busy time. The days seem to getting shorter, right? It's getting darker and darker. We have to just go home right now and we're done and go to bed. What are we supposed? We don't have any time left, right? We wake up in the morning, it's dark, and it's dark when we come home. So the day is short. We have no time left to do anything. So on the weekends or when you have time, always cook once and eat twice, right? You can do that with using also you can set yourself up to use like a slow cooker. How many have used a slow cooker and let it go all day? Come home, magic, you've got a meal. And if you really have forgotten, you went out the door and you didn't have time to get it prepped, now there's the Instapot. There's Instapot, which is like a pressurized cooker. that's combined with a slow cooker. So you can literally get home and use an Instapot. Stock your pantry and make sure when you're going to the grocery store, make sure you have those things at home that help set you up for success. Put fruits and vegetables in your refrigerators. Those cut things that you need, any of them, just have them ready to grab. Use healthy meal kits. HelloFresh, you can get on an ordering list and you can get things sent right to your house, make it easy to cook. You can run over to the grocery store, Safeway does it, Whole Foods does it. They have kits already ready for you with salmon and vegetables. Don't have to do a lot of thinking or put together the menu, you just grab the kit and go. Those are all quick tips. What gets measured gets managed, so do those little behaviors every day as part of your goals that set you up for the outcomes that you want. If you're going to weigh yourself at the end of every week and be doing that and then just show up there, most people have difficulty. They get there and they say, well, I've been doing this diet, but nothing's working. The weight is the exact same, it keeps doing it. So what do is you control the behaviors that make a difference at the end of the week. That means, did I keep track of today, or at least make a little checkbox for myself? Did I walk for 10 minutes? Did I do the activity, my micro goal? Did I meet my activity goal? Did I meet my nutrition activity goal? Am I moving in the right direction? Okay, because it's today's behaviors that are going to lead to the outcomes at the end of the week or the end of the month that you're looking for. Oftentimes we don't hardwire those or manage those. We just keep showing up to the space where we want the results to be and going, I've been doing it, I've been doing it. So it even gets easier for you too, because I have a handout for you. And you can get apps. There's an app for everything. You can get an app, the fitness tracker, MyFitnessPal. You can get Spark People, you can use your Fitbit. The FitnessPal is the one I'm most familiar with. A lot of the people that I work with are using that. You put your calories, it'll help you count your calories for the day. It'll tell you what's left. This is a handout that has, it's a packet one, looks like this. And in the very back of this weight loss tips, it has, I'm finding it, looks like this on the very front. On the very back table are all the handouts, okay, so you can grab those on your way out. So it looks like small tips to lose big, and it's all the stuff I've been talking about in this packet, but it also has the apps right here for you, so you can look at those. There's free versions to get started, and then if you get really crazy and you have a lot of goals going and you're managing a lot of elements and you're using this tool, I think you can get some up features or up-regulate that app. That's one way just to set yourself up for success. This is what we're coming to. This is the blue zoning. How many of you are familiar with the blue zones? These are the blue zones right here, Loma Linda, California, right here in our own state. Costa Rica, Italy, Greece, Japan. How many are familiar with this work?
Is that like Mediterranean thing?
Similar to Mediterranean. So a researcher went out and he went around the world, and it's called the blue zones because he looked at a map and he went around to the places where people had the best quality of life, because I said, you look like a group who came here just not to hear about balancing and those portions, but you came for more goals tonight. You came for quality of life and longevity in your living, right? That's what you really want. That's the long game. That's what we really want when we come to classes like this, right? So the researchers went out and he went around the world. He started studying where people live the longest. They're living to 100 years old, and a good 100. A good 100, okay? A young 100, like 100 that's like 50. No, I'm just not at all. Just kidding, but a good 100, not just surviving, right? And these are the places that he started to then circle on the map with the blue marker. They then became known as the blue zones. And then he started to say, how do the people and what do these people do in these areas? There's a handout that you have that some of our overachievers here were reading when we came in. All about that. There's the power of 9, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute, but what they really found out was 95% of the diet of those people in those areas are all plant-based. So when I've been plant slanting you, when I've been talking about all the different options and ways to get these things and things that you can now start to change up your diet with, it's because of this. I'm here to help you live longer and have a more quality to that life. And so these are the places, and this is the power of the 9. This is the power of 9. It's a little bit small, but it's in your handout here. There's downtime. You have downtime, and you actually do some activity, purposeful movement up there in the corner on this side here, move naturally. So we're going to be talking about yoga tonight, but you have downtime. You have a way to kind of regulate yourself and kind of give yourself some space to recharge yourself. You live with purpose. Hopefully you're not just walking around on the earth, but every day you get up and you have intention to the reason why you're here and what you're doing. You have a tribe of people that you show up with. That's the benefits of being in an exercise program. We were talking about that. You start to have a flock of people that support the work that you're doing, not sabotaging it, but supporting the work. You have a walking group, you have somebody who's eating the way that you're eating. That's success. A lot of that work was done out of Harvard. It's Nicholas Christakis, and it's called social norming. And so when you set yourself up with a tribe or a family, you're going to do better. And you're going to have a healthier life. One of the rules we didn't talk about, but I'm going to point out, is that you eat, when you're eating, I said get a smaller plate and do all those things. Eat a lot of vegetables, they don't have a lot of calories. Eat till you're 80% full. That comes from Japan. They have a saying that they have where they say, just eat until done. It's basically what it means. Don't eat until I have to have that feeling of fullness, right? So 80% is good enough. Plant slant, that's what I've been talking about. Every different way to change up the traditional plate and balance that you have and move it into the plant-based world. And then I guess at 5 o'clock, if you want, you can have a glass of wine. And that wine in there is red wine, okay? I know there's a lot of different messages around drinking and cancer risk and everything else, but the people who are living to 100 are doing all of these things. And in combination are very synergetic, meaning that they give power to each other the more that you do these. So this too could be your long-term game, right? Your long-term plan, your long game that you're working toward. Back yourself into a lot of the suggestions that I made and see where you want to work and how you want to in the next coming months and time period get to where you need to get so that you have the power of 9 in your life, okay?